All right. I'm a former student at Eastern Shore District High from 1997 to 1999. And I was told that this year of June of 2024 is Eastern Shore District High's last year of being existent of a high school. Uh, I gotta tell you something. My honest feelings about Eastern Shore District High when I went there, I was never really that amused by it. There's nothing there that really amused me because I remember, get this, I still remember the day on my orientation day from Gatesbrook Junior High to a well, clean, respectable school, up to date school. It was quite reasonable. To a school that's basically a rust bucket. It's broken down, it's run down, not really looked after, not really maintained that well or at all. It's seen better days. And that was pretty 30 years ago. And I gotta say is, in my opinion, the province has been not properly looking after the Eastern Shore. Because what I mean by that, if that would have been Dartmouth, Sackville, Fall River, anywheres around the province of Nova Scotia, they would have had a new high school like that. Eastern Shore District High, in my opinion, should have been replaced before I even got there. Not replaced 30 years later after when I left. I mean, that's not a reasonable time frame to replace a school when it needed to be replaced. I can tell you right now, the first day when I went there on orientation, I remember one of the problems when I first went there. None of the washrooms were labeled. You couldn't tell if you're entering a woman's washroom, if you're entering a male's washroom, because none of them were labeled. And I remember on my first day on orientation, I had to go something fierce. And none of the washrooms were labeled. And I remember talking to a family member of mine who worked there, and I said, why ain't the goddamn washrooms labeled? It's not rocket science. What are these people? Are they, does they require Einstein work? They put a label of science so people know what they're entering? And I remember him saying, yeah, that's, no, it is a good argument. Why? I mean, it's like, why so late to replace it? Eastern Shore District High was in a situation what it should never have been in. No student of any type should ever go into a school where it actually poses a risk to their health and their well-being. The tiles, the ceiling, everything, asbestos. The school board, now known as the Center, was it for Education now? They all stated, now we're renovating Eastern Shore District High quite a bit. When a place has asbestos, it's just time for it to go. I mean, now, my understanding was, when Kevin Murphy was the MLA, there was a project thing that Eastern Shore District High was supposed to be tore down and redeveloped, subdivided off to like a subdivision-like sort of thing. That was my understanding. It was brought to my attention. I'm not saying this is factual. I'm not saying it is. This is just what I was told from some in the community, that they're going to turn into a seniors complex. Yeah. My opinion, what has to happen to Eastern Shore District High is the same thing what happened to Halifax West. Leveled the whole school, let the land sit, because it's, no, you're dealing with asbestos and all this craziness. The land is contaminated, and it is contaminated. It should never have been built in Musqueam Harbor in the first place, in that location in the first place. One of the problems with Eastern Shore District High was that it shouldn't have been built in Musqueam Harbor in the first place. The distance that people had to travel, students, I should say, is unrealistic. It's not a realistic distance for people to be traveling. And I can tell you right now, one of the things that I had witnessed, and I encountered it, was that at the end of your exams, around the middle of the term, your school term, and then the end of it, they would do exams. Sometimes they would have no bus that gets you from the school to home. And that would cause students to hitchhike on the side of the road with their thumbs out. Cars pick them up if they get picked up, get them to their destination or halfway to their destination. If there was a bus, it would drive them far as the Porter's Lake shopping plaza, and it would let them off right around where the Porter's Lake pub is now. They would let. I remember getting off there one day around lunch, go home, and I remember I lived way up on the West Porter's Lake Road, and the distance from walking from there to my house is about an hour and a half. So by the time I got home, I'm about an hour earlier than what I would have been if I just would have waited for the normal regular bus to drive you home. He didn't make that much great timing at all. And secondly, it was the liability I noticed. Here we are with a bunch of students, kids. They're underage. If a student was to get picked up by some weirdo on the side of the road, to get sexually assaulted or whatever, which could, here's the school board, Center for Education, what in the hell you want to call them now, to let them hitchhike. Not realizing where these students are underage, the school board, the Center for Education, whatever you want to call them, are at risk. These parents can sue the school board for allowing these students to be hitchhiking, allowing them to be at risk, putting them at risk. In the air, they're putting them at risk from getting picked up by people who they don't know. Some people will drive you to your destination. Some people are just flat out weirdos. And my concern is no student at any time should be traveling, hitchhiking from Muscatawba Harbor way out to wherever. If the bus was going the other way, I would assume, as far as I was told, some students who lived in Jedore, the bus would let them off at the old Sobeys shopping plaza in Jedore, let them off there. But even that, it's a liability. If a student gets hurt, if a student gets assaulted by some weirdo on the street or some complete idiot on the street, the Department of Education can be sued. They can be held accountable here. They're at risk. That's a concern. And secondly, I gotta say is, why would they even allow that to happen in the first place? I mean, I'm concerned about their lack of intelligence here. What was done back in the day, and it still is. And secondly, when I went to Eastern Shore District High, one of the things I noticed was the environment with the community around it. Very ignorant, very self-centered. Not a community for a student to be encountering, because I can tell you right now, this is a true story. When I left Eastern Shore District High in 1999, a year later, I got hired by the Halifax Regional School Board as a custodian. I was asked to go back to Eastern Shore District High to take over for a cleaner at night. I denied it. Why not? Now get this. The community of Muscatawba and Herb is bad enough, but the attitude of the staff at Eastern Shore District High was so goddamn ignorant. Now get this. They don't consider the custodians staff. If they have a staff function, the custodians are not invited because they're not considered staff. And I believe they weren't allowed to have a staff function anymore because they weren't allowing the custodians to take part when they were hired because the teachers and the custodians are hired under the roof of the school board, the Department of Education now. It was even back then. So because they're part of a different union, was the attitude of the teachers at the time that they weren't allowed to attend. Because of that, in the environmental community, I basically stated, you will not see Adam Conrod reunite with the Eastern Shore again. Never. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I've been to Muscatauget Harbor. That long ago. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I've been to Muscatauget. Well, I'll tell you the last time I was in Muscatauget Harbor. I believe it was in March of this year, 2024. I drove through, and I remember getting out at the old schoolhouse. I remember just walking up the driveway, entering. And I remember, and I said, I was meeting with this woman. I told her, I'm going to tell you something. The feeling that I got right now, I haven't had this feeling in 30 some years since I last been here. It's been that long. And I'll tell you right now, when I left, nobody could put their words in place better and live up to their words better than how I did. I had stated before I left, you'll never see me back here again. I never been so insulted by the community of Muscatauget Harbor so much. And it got to the point, you'll never see me back again. I was asked to reunite. Didn't want to. Some I did. Didn't want to. The problem with the communities from Porters from Lake Echo. See, the students were going from Lake Echo all the way to Muscatauget Harbor to go to high school. That's the first problem. Too far. And the problem with the Eastern Shore when you're going to the Eastern Shore is there's three factors which you have to look up to. It's a rich community. The majority of the people are rich. It's middle. Then you got your middle class. And if you got your low income, they stand out like a big sore thumb. And I'll tell you right now, I can't tell you how many people that were in the rich category. You'll see them go to school, they're right conservative and all this stuff. You'll see them in these argumental situations with people because they snub them or because they look down on people. Because in today's world or any time while you're out in society, when you look down on people, people resent that. And it shows the ignorance of people, and around it. Why would you look down on somebody in the first place? We all work. We all have our reasons why we're home on disability, why they can't work. But yet we have a tendency of looking down on people. And I'll tell you right now, when Eastern Shore District High left Muscatauget Harbor, now this is my opinion, what I'm about to say is the Nova Scotia government wanted to get Muscatauget Harbor out of the factor. Get them out of the equation. Get them out completely. They don't want nothing to do with it no more. They want to take Eastern Shore High out of Muscatauget, get it out of that environment I just talked about, that ignorant environment like I talked about, put into a community of East Chesapeake and Industrial Park, and let's amalgamate the schools, a junior high and high school together. All right. Now, look, here's the question. What I got is, are those two schools joined together are going to be big enough to accommodate the huge flow of students that is about to embrace those two schools? I believe, in my opinion, it was just slapped together just to put something together just so Eastern Shore District High was replaced. My opinion, this is the part where I always ask people in Jador, was it Lake Charlotte, was to put a bid for a new high school to go out somewhere between Jador and Lake Charlotte and change the boundaries. People who live in Lake Echo, Porters Lake, East Chesapeake, Gatesbrook don't have to go 50,000 miles down the end of the God's green earth, way clean out to the boondocks to go to school. Put a new high school someplace out in Jador or Lake Charlotte. Change the boundary. Send them out there now. People who live from Muscatauget Harbor down to Lake Charlotte, they all go to this new school in, like I said, somewhere between Jador and Lake Charlotte. Send them out there. And bring the people together from Lake Echo to Gatesbrook into this new school in East Chesapeake Industrial Park. It's the only way how they're going to solve the problem. But in my opinion, they're not going to, because the problem is not, never has been, or never will be committed to the Eastern Shore. It's been proven so many times. Kevin Murphy. Look at Kent Smith. The man, everybody loved him because they just want to get rid of Kevin Murphy. When when did he go out? 2019 or 2020, the last provincial election? Here we are in 2024. Kent Smith went from the most liked guy to the most hated, and he's on the edge of being voted out. And he's at the end of his first 4-year term. How's it humanly possible to become the most number one liked guy to the most hated person in, just in a 4-year time frame? That just shows it right there. And I'm going to tell you something. Me and Kevin Murphy never seen eye to eye. Never did. Not until after when he left. And I'll tell you something. When it was announced that the Eastern Shore District High was going to be relocated and replaced in the East Chesapeake Industrial Park, I reached out to Kevin Murphy and I told him, Kevin, you and I never seen eye to eye. And I'll tell you something right now. I actually support this idea. Makes sense. It has to be done. You can't be sending students 50,000 miles to go to school. We can't have it. It just can't be done. And he agreed. And one of the things that Kevin Murphy told me that he said, Adam, this is going to be a big game changer for the community. This is it here. But the problem is, it's in this East Chesapeake Industrial Park at the end of the year, or the midterms of the year, you got students going home. And when they're going home, are they going to be on the side of the road again, hitchhiking? No student should be hitchhiking, risking their well-being in the hands of this total stranger who picks them up, or if they pick them up and drive them to wherever they need to go at the end of the day. No student should be at risk. I'm actually surprised the parents didn't go head to toe with the Department of Education about that. Why is our school boards, this school, allowing students to hitchhike home when their exams are done? It's either you have a bus that's going to drive them to their homes, or they're not going home until the end of the day. It's one or the other. I tell them, you guys make that change. It's not going to happen. Now, I'll tell you right now, when I went to the Eastern Shore District High, now here's my picture. Believe it or not, that's me. Can you imagine? That's me. My, how things change. I got to tell you right now, when I took that picture, they struggled to get me to take that. I actually almost didn't do it. I mean, when I entered high school, I was always in danger of quitting. I actually regret not quitting. I actually regret it. I remember the day when I quit for about 3 weeks. And I remember the principal, Mr. Bottomley, he called me. He asked me if I was coming back, or do you have any intentions at all coming back? Because one of the things, what a lot of people didn't know, when I was in grade 7, I was above the age limit you're allowed to quit. 16, I was long past it. And I remember he was talking to me about it, and you can't really do anything if you don't want to come back. It is what it is. And I remember him saying, all right, I'll take the week off, think about it, and call me back when you're done, or I'll call you back so we know what's going on. I remember going back. I regretted it. Because here's the thing with a lot of students, I'm going to let you in on something right here. If you're a student, I'm going to let you in on this right now. If you're 16, you're allowed to quit. I'm going to tell you something right now. Go to grade 11. If you want to drop out, now here's the thing. Even though you ain't got your grade 12, you can still go to community college. You can still go to university, depending on the programs that you're planning to take. I mean, if you're going to be a school teacher, they may frown on you for not having your grade 12. But if you just want to go to university to take on a program, to enter the workforce, whatever it is you want to do, you can actually do it. And I would strongly suggest, if you're a student that doesn't get along in school, it's not your thing, this high school thing's not working, if you want to drop out, go to university or community college, I strongly suggest that you do it. I mean, just because you quit high school, now you're available to go to community college, doesn't mean they're going to accept you. It's like all the rest. When I left high school, I had to wait something like 2 years before I got in that community college. Actually, I believe it was Keith Collins that got me in. It was that bad. It was so bad. My Keith Collins at the time was a community counselor. He had to pull the strings to get me in there. It was that corrupt that your counselor had to get you in. But at the end of the day, when I looked at Eastern Shore District High, I wasn't that amused. I really wasn't amused. I mean, I had, was it 2 or 3 students? I'll say 2. I was going to charge them criminally. They thought I was joking. I said, if you send me any more Facebook messages, if I'm going to charge you. Because the messages were in a way that, all right, it's raising a concern. And not only that, there was a tactic on Facebook, one that was on a group there, mentioning your name on the group, or just trying humiliation tactics. And they were all out of this stuff, so thinking they were ahead of the game. Little did they realize, the RCMP showed up at the door. Knocked on the door, had a little chat with them. And they just said, we have your Facebook posting. We have it all right now. And the officer showed them the paper, the posting. They stated, right now we have enough to charge you. But we said, we're going to give you a chance. We're going to ask you that you take down your posting. If you contact Adam anymore, if you make any more postings, unfortunately, we're going to have to place you under arrest. We're going to take you down to the station. We're going to process your court date. And we're going to put you on an undertaking. You're not allowed to interact with this person no more. And they stopped. That was the first person. The second person, who I went to school with, again, Facebook message was concerning. She was referring to me as her hun and her honey and all this stuff. Made it look like something that it was not. It made it look like we had this relationship sort of thing. I never had a relationship with her in the first place. And I went to school with her whole life. I'm not going to mention her name. She worked at the Porter's Lake Bank. Now get this. Where she started interacting with family members of mine, trying to set up like a reunion or whatever she had in planned. Now me, I don't reunite with my high school classmates. Don't do it. I had in the past with some of them. The ones who had, I consider that lucky because I just don't reunite with the Eastern Shore. I basically put the Eastern Shore behind me because I just wasn't amused being out there. I really did not enjoy living on the Eastern Shore. This wasn't my thing. And I remember talking to her. I basically said, I don't want it. I really don't. And that was face to face. And I was talking to her in the bank. I said I wasn't interested and stuff. So she started, again, going to my family members. And she started convincing them that we had like a relationship going, a sort of thing. And I said, I never really engaged this woman in high school. We just went to school for a long time. But she was always like that. And I remember telling her, I said, look, if you got feelings for a person, you need to tell them. Because it said, if you're going to interact with these on a person's family, and if you're going to make something look like something that it's not, the first thing is this person mentally ill? Do they have an undiagnosed mental illness? Can we get them a doctor? And secondly, if they're not, all the above, why are they acting like this? Because like I said, by God, here's a problem. I never had no relationship of any type, none whatsoever. In high school, we just went to school, talked a bit, and that was it. We never did nothing after school or nothing. I don't understand this. So, when her emails continued to go on, so I said, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I want to let you go. What I'm about to tell you, you're going to think I'm a complete arsehole right here. But I'm going to be nice. Instead of me charging you with a criminal harassment charge, I'm going to let you go. And I said, when you interact with a person's family, trying to find contact like she did, and when you're making things look like something that they're not, there's a criminal charge here. I said, if I charge you, which I am, if I told her if I get one more contact from you of any type, indirect or direct, if you don't know what direct is when you go up to the person directly. Indirect is when you get somebody to contact them on their behalf. I told them I'm going to charge you, and not only am I going to charge you, but I'm going to have you tested a mental health assessment. I'm going to have your mental well-being checked out. Because I told her, people don't usually do this. High school, people don't bounce off the walls because you went to school or nothing like that. And when somebody says they're not interested, that's when you stop. They're not interested. So after what I basically told them, I'm going to charge you if I get any more, everything stopped. 2 people. I mean, now when I first worked for the school board, now get this, I turned down Eastern Shore District High. The first school I worked at was C.P. Allen in Bedford. I remember walking in, and I'm going to tell you something, what a feeling it was. It's like reliving your high school days all over, because when I walked in C.P. Allen High, I was out of high school for about 2 years, if that. And I'll tell you something, the teachers actually thought I was a student. The caretaker and the superintendent had to go up to the teacher. He's not a student. And they were shocked. And they said, no, Adam's fresh out of high school. They're sitting there laughing. They're all sitting there killing themselves laughing. They all thought I was fresh out of high school. That's one of them students. I said, no, Adam's just fresh out. He's done. But no, I really did not enjoy my time at Eastern Shore District High. By no means. I mean, I really didn't want to be among them. I mean, I can honestly tell you, I remember when I was in elementary, then it was called Lakeview Consolidated Elementary School in Porters Lake. I remember looking out the fence, looking out at the Porters Lake Shopping Plaza, and back then it was a swamp where the Porters Lake Superstore is now, was a big, huge swamp. And I remember looking out there, looking through the fence. It was like a prison inmate looking through the fence, wondering when he was going to get out, when I was ever going to get out, when this nightmare of being in school was ever going to end. It was that bad. And I'll tell you right now, I remember walking down to that fence. Back then, there was a gap. Here was a tree, and here the fence ended. And in the middle, there's a gap I could fit through. And I remember running away from school. I literally ran away from Lakeview School in Porters Lake as a kid. At the age of, that was a good question, 10, I was running away. My mother would get these calls. Adam ran away. We can't find him. I honestly can tell you, I did not want to be among them. It just wasn't my thing. When I was in school, I had a disability called epilepsy. I would take a seizure. I used to get so mad being in school, I used to pass out and have a seizure. It was that bad. And I remember we were going to the epilepsy specialist to get tested. And my mother didn't know this about people with epilepsy. And I remember the doctor looking at my mother saying, looked at her and said, I want to tell you something. People with epilepsy, if they're in a depressive state, in a place where they don't want to be, where they really don't want to be, he said, they'll have a seizure. They'll literally black out, pass out, they'll go into a seizure. That's it. And the doctor looked at mother and said, I'm going to tell you something. Random, just what he just said, where you said he experienced angerment, real strong depression, not really liking any of the students, didn't want no affiliation with them. He told her, that's a very strong indicator that, yeah, this is going to be worked on. And I remember the doctor, he said, here's Adam in grade 3 at Lakeview School. He had a seizure on the floor because he was so mad. He didn't want to be there. He didn't like the teacher. He was debating if he should punch the teacher and attack the teacher. Didn't want to be there. And I believe I did a few times. And he said, here's Adam going on a school trip. Grade 3. We're going to this tree farm. Someplace in Muscatau, I believe it was at. I can't really remember where it's at. If I could even remember where it was at. Today, we pulled in. Again, so depressive being there. I mean, I just found that spot was so boring. I really didn't want to be there. It was so boring. My last time, before we went there the second time, I actually got physically ill. I actually went outside and vomited in the woods. I didn't want to be there. It was that bad. But what happened was, we were on the school bus. We entered this tree farm. I got so mad I passed out and went to another seizure. Twice that happened. And again, the epilepsy doctor looked at my mother again. He said, we had this discussion before. So they decide they're going to increase Adam's epilepsy medication when I try this again. So the seizure stops suddenly. The doctor goes, all right, now we can figure this out. But I can honestly tell you right now, I really did not want to be among the Eastern Shore. I really didn't want to be among my classmates. I did enjoy it. I mean, when I went to Eastern Shore District High, right from the start, from 1997, between 1997 and 1998, there was a big push. Adam was going to be deflected on the Dartmouth High. It almost happened. And I remember my cousin in Dartmouth, her name was Rhonda, all excited. Adam's coming to Dartmouth High. It was all said and done. But one problem, it wasn't written in stone. It was all said and done, but it wasn't written in stone. And I remember when I decided not to go, I regretted it. And then I remember one of my cousins asking me on the phone, I said, why'd you come? And you know what the answer is? It's bad enough I was at Eastern Shore District High not wanting it to be there. Some miracle I managed to last and graduate from the Eastern Shore District High. But I told her, I said, if I would have went to Dartmouth High, I probably would have quit for sure out of high school faster than I would have from Eastern Shore District High. I said, if I would have went to Dartmouth High, I would have quit for sure, because here I am in an environment, now you have all these necessities. Here's the normality of life suddenly sitting in front of you. You're not 50,000 miles in the boondocks, Adam, anymore. You can come and do what you want. You don't have to worry about these ignorant piles of shit off the side here. Now they got their big fancy cars. You got the rich here driving mummies and daddies, fancy SUVs, whatever they got, you know. Adam, if you don't like where you're at in the city, you can just hop on a transit bus and piss on them. Go wherever you want. And I remember telling my cousin, that's why. Do I regret it? Yeah, I do regret it. But when I looked at my time at Eastern Shore District High, I mean, how could you like it? I really couldn't see myself reuniting with a group of people for something that I never enjoyed in the first place. Today, I work in the film at the independent level. Sometimes my nephew, family members, they'll laugh and say, "Yeah, ain't you a Starfleet captain or whatever?" you got this character creating a lot of Star Trek fans sort of like it. And they said, you're playing the role of William Shatner's character. You know, you're Captain Kirk's grandson. You're Tiberius Kirk in the Star Trek fan films. And I go, yeah, I am. I play that character, but I'm not really a Starfleet captain. I just play that character. And ever since when I entered the film industry, that Star Trek keeps popping up. And I'll tell you something right now. When I entered the film industry, that's the only job that I did that I actually enjoy. I want to do something that I enjoy. I don't want to do something what they want to do. I want to do something what I want to do that I enjoy. And what was going on with Eastern Shore District High at the time, I didn't want to do what they wanted. I wanted to do what I wanted. And they really didn't have anything that I was interested in. I mean, relationships with girlfriends, I wasn't interested in any of the ladies there. I really wasn't. Some of the women thought I might have been. I really wasn't. Because I'll tell you, if you're interested in any of the women back then, or even today, when I look back at myself back then, I would say, Adam, she's mighty stuck up. They're mighty conservatives. Those people are often, they're frowned upon in life. They learn a hard lesson because people steer away from them. And those people they're not what you would want. And I'll tell you right now, I really wasn't interested in any of the women that I went to school with. that woman I just told you about that went up to my family, referred to me as her honey, going on as if we were in a relationship. We never had no relationship at all. She couldn't have the mindset of understanding what she was engaging. Not only was it a criminal activity, but her mental mortality was shown very strongly, very widely, that not only was she showing a sign of a mental illness, but she was showing an impairment of she's doing what she wants, but she's not understanding what she wants. I'm not interested in it because I wanted to do something what I was interested in. She wasn't bringing something to the table that I was interested in. If you were referred to someone, I told her, I said, I want to tell you something. I watched you the whole time when you were interacting with my family in this awkward way. I said, when you worked at the bank and when you were interacting with my family who were customers at the bank, you know, if I were to make a complaint, the police are going to go on the job site and you're going to talk to your supervisor because this is where it all interacted. I said, you're going to lose your job. You're likely going to be terminated from your position. And then it's bad enough you face that kind of humiliation. And then the police are going to come to the door and say, guess what? You're under arrest. The whole time, she was bringing something to the table that only she was interested in, something that I wasn't. I knew she was getting married. And I'm saying, well, if you're getting married, why am I receiving all these awkward messages? And why is my family having you confront them at the bank like this in such a way? And I said, that's why I question your mental mortality. Luckily, the good guy that I am, I said, I'll let you go. Even though this makes, you may think I'm being a complete arsehole out of this, a complete asshole. I said, I'm going to be nice to you, believe it or not. I said, by God, I'm going to give you a heads up warning because I like to educate people first. I said, if I get any more of these crazy messages or these crazy requests, if my family gets any more contact from you trying to reach out to me, I'm going to charge you. There's no buts or whats, nothing like that. I'm going to come at you. Suddenly you stop. Suddenly she's not at the bank no more. She quit because she's in fear that the RCMP are going to show up. They're going to talk to her supervisor, or they'll talk to her supervisor first, and they'll knock on her office door and say, can we have a little chat with you for a moment? And they then, and they said, I understand that she fled. She wants to work for some scuba company, yeah, whatever, in Burnside, yeah, whatever. I don't know if she's still there or not, but yeah, whatever. But I honestly can tell you right now, my run at Eastern Shore District High, it wasn't that amusing. I really did not find it amusing. We got teachers there. Now get this. Eastern Shore District High has, from the past, teachers that have been accused, that are well known in the community, that have been accused of sexual assault, sexually assaulting female students that once attended Eastern Shore District High. Now, I often ask myself, so why haven't these female students not contacted the Muscatine and Harbor Detachment of the RCMP and file a sexual assault complaint in these people's direction? One of the names that were mentioned was Daryl Sampson. Now, I was a little concerned when his name bounced back because why did the student not come forward? Because first thing I wanted to do was check the school records. Was Daryl Sampson once employed at Eastern Shore District High? If he was, okay, there's a big indicator. And secondly, why hasn't this student not gone public about it? I was talking to her brother. He and Sampson supposedly had a physical altercation in the school, which sounds about right. Yeah, normal. A guy protecting his sister. It's understandable. But she didn't go to the police. Why not? One of the things that was mentioned back then the principals, whoever was in charge at Eastern Shore High at the time, they would sweep it under the rug. And not only that, there was a lot of teaching staff that would do that. Eastern Shore District High at the time was that place where teachers were about to be fired. They'd be sent to Muscatava Harbor because nobody from the school board wants them. Nobody wants them. So they go to Eastern Shore High, either to fade off, they quit, or they're fired. On the other hand, some teachers, that's where they're sent to begin their teaching careers. But the question is, I ask myself, does this still happen at Eastern Shore District High? And why hasn't the students come forward? Because when I look at my time at Eastern Shore District High, I can't say it was anything that any student should ever encounter. Because like I said, no student should ever be on the side of the road hitchhiking home from high school because they're done their exams, because the school board doesn't have the mortality to give them a bus to get home. If they ain't got a bus to go home, if the students are under 16, you ain't going home. That should be the attitude of the school right there. If the student's 16 years and up, they want to go home, they want to hitchhike, let them hitchhike. But at the end of the day, Eastern Shore District High was just a problematic. It wasn't problematic of a, well, it wasn't problematic of a place because we just talked about the sexual abuse allegation that had surfaced. But the attitude of the community and the staff at the time was a concern. I mean, they had teachers there who should never have been there in their first place. Like when I talked about a teacher by the name of Smagus, there's a person who should never have been employed in the first place there. Because she was known for picking people out of a crowd. She'll try like a humiliation tactic or anything for, well, God knows whatever. I seen her do it one time. She got in trouble. There was a student, she made a comment saying, all right, your exams, I'm gonna force you to make you to write them. Where she picked him out of a crowd, he blew up. Did he throw the guy? I think he kicked it. It just missed her by that much. Well, I can't even tell you how much. And cursing go, it makes sense. So the vice principal came up bottomly, and he said, did Smagus say anything to this person to trigger him off? Because she's known for this. I want to know so I can how to write this report. And I tell you, the teacher's like, oh no. They chickened out from doing the right thing. If that teacher is known for doing that, let the principal do the write-up and get her out of there. Because here's the thing. If you do that out in the community, you're going to try a humiliation tactic to anybody out in the community. There's a charge of criminal harassment right there. And I'll tell you right now, I never really, I won't say I didn't like her. I just didn't like Eastern Shore District High altogether. I really did. I didn't like the principal. I didn't like the vice principal. Now, here's the crazy thing about me and the vice principal, bottomly. When I got out of high school, I was known for the Halifax Metro Center playing hockey there. We had a lot of games in there, let me tell you. One the people booked after when my crew was done. Here comes Baldwin, his gear all done up. I remember looking at this thing. He looks awful familiar. I go, nah, can't be. And I looked over and said, if you want, you can go on the ice. It's my ice. You can go on if you want, you know. So he skates on. And I remember he skated up. And I remember stopped and said, I'm not that big of an arsehole like I was in high school. I said, if I didn't like you, you wouldn't have got on the ice. He remember looking at me. Yeah, you do look familiar. Yeah, I said, I'm who you think I am. But we got along after that. And when, like I said, when I worked with the school board for the first time, like one of the second schools I went to was Creighton Avenue. At the time, they were at the Gordon Bell building in Cole Harbour because the Creighton Avenue, wherever they're tearing it down, they're rebuilding it. There's Baldwin. He's a principal. He's not a vice principal like he was at Eastern Shore High. He's the full-fledged principal. He looked at me and he said, not again. I said, Baldwin, I'm not a student this time. I'm an actual staff this time. You remember go, whew. I don't think I can handle you a second time, Adam. And I remember saying, school for me was not my thing. What you're seeing now is the flip of the coin. I was a staff now. And I remember working there. I mean, not only at Creighton Avenue, I worked at other places. Dartmouth High, what a pig pen that was. I thought Eastern Shore was bad. Dartmouth High is not that better off, not much better. And I remember going in there. I said, if it wasn't, I was the superintendent, Bill, at the time. I was talking to him. I said, Bill, if Eastern Shore District High, the community of Musquodoboit wasn't so goddamn ignorant, I probably would have went back. And I remember saying, here I am working at Dartmouth High. It feels like as if you were a student here, but you weren't. And I remember him saying, well, unfortunately, Adam, the threats of time doesn't come for us as soon as we would like it to be. Basically what he's saying is, this building is probably supposed to be for you here when you're supposed to leave Eastern Shore to come to Dartmouth High, and here you are. But I remember working there. I remember I was just refusing everything with Eastern Shore District High. Any classmates, nothing. And, some students I did reunite with. But Eastern Shore, majority of them, I just find it's just one disaster after another. Like, bad enough you got to travel 1,000 miles to go to school, let alone being see, I can't say the entire community of Musquodoboit is ignorant. But you get these group that ruins it for the whole community. And they lost their Sobeys, they lost their high school. They're likely going to lose the Twin Oaks over time, including the library, because I actually pushed for the city to relocate that public library in the Porter's Lake to a facility that's more acceptable. And I got the feeling it is going to happen. But when I look at Eastern Shore District High, when they make the decision to close it, that should have been done a long time ago. And I strongly question the commitment from the province when it comes to replacing these facilities. It should have been replaced a long time ago. Back in 1998, I was exposed to leave Eastern Shore District High and go through the transition and head off to Dartmouth High. The reality of that happening was very strong. So strong that my family members in Dartmouth that was going to Dartmouth High at the time was actually looking forward for that transition to take place. Because in their eyes, here was me, the strong Eastern Shore colors, going to transition and arrive at Dartmouth High. But at the end, it never happened. And I remember my cousin asking me every now and then, Adam, how come you didn't arrive at Dartmouth High when you were supposed to go through that transition at the time? And the answer to that is quite simple. It goes against everything what I was wanting to do when I was at Eastern Shore in the first place. If I would have went to Dartmouth High, I probably would have quit high school faster if I'd have went to Dartmouth High. If I would have stayed at Eastern Shore District High, that's the reason why I stayed, because I only knew that I would drop out of high school a lot faster if I would have made the transition to Dartmouth High. In spite of the big positive arrival that my cousin was waiting for at the time, it was a letdown that they felt, because I guess she had all her friends all organized. By God, her younger cousin Anna was going to make the arrival at Dartmouth High. And that's where my brother was at, Dartmouth High. Never happened. It is what it is, but at the same time, I basically did something that I was against the whole time. I wanted to leave high school, and here I am, prevent myself from quitting, believe it or not. Makes no sense. But when I look back at my Eastern Shore High days, that's the dark days of my life. I really didn't enjoy it. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be part of that community. Jordan High School reunion, I had a lawyer engaged the the Eastern Shore District High Reunion Committee, not to be mentioning my name, not allowed to use my name. I'm basically erasing history is what had transpired. I don't regret it because I don't want to be part of something that I didn't want to be part of, or I felt that wasn't that great in the first place. And I did not think that my high school run at Eastern Shore District High was that great. I just didn't like it because I felt that the Eastern Shore was holding me down from the great achievements what I was actually capable of achieving. And there was people on top that weren't capable of achieving anything, and they were just standing in the way, just clogging up the drain pipes, stopping the flow of water from passing by. And I was that flow of water that couldn't get by because this clog of the wrong people in the way. And when I left Eastern Shore District High, I was in every news that you could find, global news, CBC, many at times, CTV. I was on the national news with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Sackville High a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was. I worked with Halifax Mayor Peter Kelly. There we are, standing together. And my biggest fear, now, see, all of my political stuff that I'd done with Peter Kelly, Mike Savage, Peter Stauffer, one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest member of parliaments in the history of Canada, next to Pierre Trudeau, who I worked with, Alexa Madonna, Daryl Dexter, Justin Trudeau, Gloria McCluskey, did I leave any names out? I know I'm leaving names, but I can't think of them all. My biggest fear was that the Eastern Shore would crap and rain down on your achievements, the great heights that I had achieved. And it got to the point that I was looking at running for a council. And at one point, I even looked at the mayor's chair. Because my time with Mayor Peter Kelly, I sort of knew how, I knowingly knew how this works. And basically, the mayor is just a crown over regional council. The mayor has no power at all. Mayor Halifax is basically powerless. And on Tuesday nights, when council comes together, that's how all the power and decisions are made. The mayor of Halifax has no decision, doesn't have no authority to make any making decisions that don't go through council or the appropriate channels. The mayor is basically powerless. He's useless, basically. And I looked at that for quite some time. And I've been voicing issues, not only here on the Eastern Shore, but throughout Nova Scotia in Canada, the national. I was on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. And during a comedy sketch with the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. I mean, everybody's seen it. I remember I had a few people come up to me in the superstore in the Porter's Lake, shaking my hand, thanking me for the advocating that I did not only in the Eastern Shore, but throughout Nova Scotia. And when that happens, that means that people had seen you. You're hitting the spots that matters, not only to them, but to the community around them. And when they're shaking your hand, I gotta say, the pleasure was mine bringing these issues up, because that's what we're supposed to do. The problem with today is most people back down from politicians because they're scared that they're going to charge you. They're scared that they're going to try to humiliate you. And I can tell you right now, that's the worst thing you can do. Always stand up for what you believe in. You may be wrong with it. You may go see. One of the things what a lot of people do is, let's say they want to address road conditions. They'll often go to their city council member or their member of parliament. Road work is provincial. If it's a highway, it can be federal. But sometimes, majority of the time, some people will go to their council member trying to get their roads fixed. When you live on the Eastern Shore, there's a 90% chance that the province maintains and has the jurisdictions over the road that you live on. And I gotta say is, the pleasure is mine when I represent my community of the Eastern Shore, even though I fought tooth and nail to get out of Eastern Shore District High. But I'm a person that's not scared. The voice matters. That matters to the community. I don't care what the cost is. I will do it. And I mean, the celebrities that I had met, Doug Gilmore, there's their handsome picture right there. When I was in Toronto in 2011, I was with William Shatner. I was staying at the Paramount York Royal Hotel on York Street in Toronto. I was going to Scotiabank Arena. It's called the Air Canada Centre back then. I was going on Hockey Night in Canada. William Shatner, Bill Shatner, was going on George Stropolopoulos talking about his acting career at the age of 88, now 93. What was it? We stayed in the exact same hotel at the Paramount York Royal Hotel on the same night. I met him, very nice guy, comical guy, but he's very protective of his privacy, and he doesn't like being called that famous character, how we all recognize him from Star Trek. Because I remember a storyline when a kid went up to him and referred to him as Captain Kirk, and Bill Shatner looked at him and said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you if you could please call me Bill or William. Call me Bill Shatner if you have to. But he said, I don't like being referred by as Captain Kirk. He said, I'm not Captain Kirk. I'm not a Starfleet captain. I don't fly around in a spaceship. I'm an actor who portrays the role of Captain Kirk. Please call me Bill. And I remember Leonard Nimoy talking about that, and Leonard stated that he understands what Bill Shatner's saying, because he said, really, I'm not Spock. And people like me, when I do my Star Trek fan films, I play the character of Tiberius Kirk. That's the grandson of Bill Shatner's character. I can understand what he's saying. I'm not a Starfleet captain. I just make videos, fan episodes that do quite well. And I had Walter Koenig reach out to me saying, Adam, you got a point there. Because I get after an actor for playing various characters. It was on a Star Trek fan episode, and I said, here you are making these fan episodes. You're getting the attention of George Takei, Nichelle Nichols, DeForest Kelly, Jimmy Doohan, Leonard Nimoy, and William Shatner. And here you are playing all these different characters. I said, but it's one or the other. You can't play the two characters because you get your audience mixed up on what you're doing and what character you're playing. I say, when I play a character, I stick to the one. I'm Tiberius Kirk. And I said, that's what he's going to do. And Walter Koenig reached out to me and he said, you're right. Adam's absolutely right. I mean, I enjoy doing what I do because I enjoy working in film. Working in film is the only job that I actually enjoy doing. And I honestly can tell you that there's not too many things that I did in life that I enjoyed doing until the film industry came along. I remember working with John Dunsworth here in Halifax. I was involved with his daughter Zoe on a personal level. Me and her are a lot like. We don't like our private life out in the open. That's one of the things that some of the students at Eastern Shore High had a hard time when they interacted with me, when I told them I like to separate my personal life from my professional life quite a bit, because I like to be who I am. I don't want to be this character. I don't want to be this politician character, this political person. I don't want to be Adam the actor. I want to be myself. And then I said, I'm like all the rest, got problems in the world, like got a bald head start and a big stomach. But I said, now I'm going to tell you a story. Back in my school days, on the first day of school, there's a picture of me and my grandfather standing there. He was there on the very first day when I started in September of 1986. I remember that day quite well. It was raining, and the rain just stopped. It was foggy that morning. And I dreaded. I really didn't want to go to school. I really did not want to go. I got on the bus. I remember when I got on the bus, my grandfather and grandmother outside watched me get on the school bus. And my mother was there too. When I graduated, I get this. My grandfather picked me up at the high school, my last day of high school. I got in his truck and we drove all the way up, all the way back home in Porter's Lake. And I remember looking at my grandfather and said, do you remember the first day when I went to school? He goes, yeah. I said, you were there when I started, and now you're driving me home on my very last day of school completely. And he looked over and said, yeah, that's right. And I can tell you right now, not too many people can say their grandparents were with you the day when you started into the very day when you ended, the first day to the last day. When I look at that picture, that day, my mother, grandfather, grandparents standing there, grandmother standing there, me getting on the bus, out of the 3 people that were there, only one's left. My grandfather died 2020, a few years, about 3 to 4 years ago. My mother passed away in 2015, 9 years ago. And here I am at the age of 44, going on 45. I'm there saying, my how time flies. I said, wow, look, just look at it. And I gotta say, you know, in spite that I did enjoy my run at Eastern Shore District High, the one thing that I liked about it that I was able to end it on the way how I started it. My grandfather was with me the day when I started, and he was with me on the day when we ended. It's like perfect ending. It is what it is, but my feelings of Eastern Shore High coming to an end. It's long overdue. It needs to be done. The schooner needs to be retired, and the schooner is going to be decommissioned. Unfortunately, the lack of commitment from the province, the students were left in a situation that they shouldn't have been left in. No student should ever have faced asbestos before them. Not at any time. But not only that, I looked at the environment out in the world around us. Today, it's a lot like when the Great Depression, just before it hit. People were dropping out because they had to go help their families make a living. They had to feed their families, whatever. Students had to quit, had to leave school early to better themselves. And when I look at the world today, I see the Great Depression starting all over again. And the sad part is I also feel that the Great Depression could have been avoided. And, but I gotta say is, you know, when I look back at Eastern Shore District High, it is what it is. I mean, I can't say, you know, I take all the blame in the direction of all the students and staff. But there's some people I wouldn't reunite with because, I mean, like I said earlier in this film, there's former staff from back in the 1960s and 70s. There's female students coming back with sexual assault allegations. Why have they not gone to the police, to the RCMP on a complaint, bringing their issues forward? Only they can do it. Only they can voice it. But I can tell you right now, it's more likely out of humiliation. Most likely out of, is people going to believe me? Of course they're going to believe you if you come forward. Of course they're going to listen to you. And I got to say is the only person that's going to suffer out of that is the accused names that you bring forward. Because the sexual assault, the laws on the sexual assault, there is no more time limitations. There's no stats of limitations. You could attack somebody back in the 1940s, and here we are, 2024. Yeah. So in that, I encourage those people to come forward and bring these names forward and bring them to justice. But my time at Eastern Shore District High, it wasn't that great, but I gotta say is, I'm happy to see a new generation, a new school created, so the torch can be passed on to the next generation.